when you get into a car, one of the first things you do is put on your seatbelt. I mean, sure, it's a law, but it's second nature, right? Then you get on a school bus, and you'll find there's no way to buckle up. That means 2 million kids across Canada are sitting unbuckled on buses every day. Our colleagues at the Fifth Estate decided to investigate. They uncovered some shocking facts. Fifth Estate producer Harvey Kashora is here in studio, and always interesting stories. But this one in particular, this investigation led you to a Transport Canada crash test. This is from 1984. What did it show? Well,
that's right. You know, as parents, we put our kids on school buses every day, and we're always told, don't worry, there's no seatbelts, but it's actually worse for you if they're there, right? My kids were in school buses this spring, and so I thought, well, where's that coming from? Where's that evidence? What's it relied on? And we go back to 1984 when Transport Canada not only did a test crash, they put it to music. They hired the National Film Board to get involved, and it was a promotional film that said, guess what? Lap belts are dangerous for you more than they're not. And we investigated that allegation and discovered numerous flaws in that study. Number one, they didn't test rollovers or side impact crashes, which are known to be where the most fatalities and injuries happen. They didn't even test three-point lap and shoulder belts, which would have already been known to have prevented accidents in cars.
Right.
We discovered a scathing University of Michigan a review of Transport Canada study, which said it was exaggerated, that no conclusion can be made on the data from the study that this would be harmful. In fact, they say that Transport Canada's raw data actually supported the need for seatbelts on school buses.
There was another crash test done. This was in 2010, so spring forward. That yielded some very different results. Those results, though, wait for it, were never released. Why not?
Well, we were looking at all the studies we could get our hands on and called Transport Canada and said, please send us all the studies you have on this topic. Well, there was a day delay, a second day delay. We realized they were thinking about what to release to us. What they gave us eventually was a study never before made public. And I think we can throw to a clip here about what happened when we asked that question, why not?
Do prevent ejection.
Which showed that compartmentalization was not adequate.
In side impact and in rollovers, yes.
I've looked for these results on the website, and are they there? I haven't been able to find them.
I don't believe so. No, they're not there.
Was this ever released publicly?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, you have to remember, for years, and even to this day on their website, Transport Canada is saying that seatbelts are safe enough, you don't need seatbelts. In fact, they may cause more injuries. And now we have what appears to be a complete contradiction from the head of their test crash facility. It's a huge statement, but that report is nowhere to be seen. It wasn't nowhere to be seen until we asked for it. And that was written 8 years ago, Sohana, 8 years ago.
And you spoke to a lot of families as well, families whose kids were involved in fatal school bus crashes. What was their response when you talked about seatbelts?
Well, we traveled to Texas and to Alberta to talk to parents who lost children in school bus accidents and who were injured. And even in Texas, they knew about this Transport Canada study. They think it's frankly a four-letter word. And the parents down there lobbied to get seatbelts on school buses in Texas. They succeeded, by the way, just last year. And they say, if you look at the actual data and stats, they all support seatbelts on school buses, but they talk about the school bus industry lobby. And we've learned, even from Transport Canada, that in the late 70s, they were planning to require seatbelts on school buses. They had a date set to put them in place.
In the 70s?
In the late 70s.
Yeah.
It was all going to go ahead. And then what happened was what they called adverse representations from the school bus industry, school bus operators, school boards, and that kind of thing. And their number one complaint, you know what it was?
No.
The cost-benefit ratio. Would the injuries prevented be worth it? And after that lobbying, Transport Canada promptly backed down and canceled the regulations.
Yeah, ask a parent about cost-benefit ratio. But you've told me about the families. Let's look at school boards, bus manufacturers. Where do they stand?
Well, you see their thinking, I think, changing over the years. Remember, this promotional film was sent all over North America. And people were getting the message that, guess what? It's more dangerous to have seatbelts. You see the Premier of Ontario saying that, ministers in Alberta, they're all told this. And now we see in the United States, for example, 8 states representing almost 40% of the population now mandate three-point belts. You see this whole tide turning in the states. The National Safety Council, the National Transportation Safety Board, all of them are saying the evidence is in, it's unequivocal, it's clear, seatbelts save lives, but in Canada, not a single law for it.
So what would have to happen then if you wanted to make that move and put seat belts on school buses in particular?
Well, you know, when you go on buses and talk to kids like we did in Etobicoke, they all want them. They're all used to them. They feel afraid that they're not having them. They're all like, we want seatbelts.
Because it's second nature for us now in our cars, whether you're front seat, back seat, whatever.
Exactly,
right?
and they know that they save lives. So, and they tell us this. The kids tell us this, right? So your question is, what will it take? Well, the simple answer is the federal government has the power to make the law effective tomorrow if they want to. They have the power to do that, but that's not really, the real question is where is the impetus to do so? We talked to a fellow who runs one of the biggest test crash facilities outside of Indianapolis, and they've done testing for years which prove that injuries are prevented with seatbelts on school buses. And he said to us, and it was quite a poignant thing to Bob McEwen, he said, you know, what it might take, I'm afraid to say, is another tragedy, another death, you know, another injury to make it happen. And that's, you know, that's a pessimistic thought, but maybe there's some truth to it, you know?
It's a great investigation. Look forward to the rest of it. Thank you so much, Harvey.
Thanks for having me.
Harvey Kishore is a producer with The Fifth Estate.